The unexpected knock. It was barely 7 a.m. when someone started pounding on my door with enough force to shake the walls. At first I thought it was an emergency, maybe a fire or a gas leak. Heart pounding, I threw on my slippers and raced to open the door. But standing there was Karen, my self-appointed neighborhood overlord, holding a mug that said, "Live, Laugh and Force," and a phone camera already recording. No uniform, no emergency, just Karen, looking every bit like she was about to deliver a verdict. "You need to move your car," she barked without a greeting. Her voice was sharp, her eyes fierce. I looked behind her, confused. My car was parked neatly in my driveway, nowhere near blocking anything, not even over the sidewalk. I blinked, trying to process her words. "What's the problem?" I asked calmly, trying not to let my heart race out of control. "It's an ISO," she snapped, as if that explained everything. "Bringing down property values. You're within the HOA jurisdiction, so I can report you." Her words hit me like a slap. I knew I wasn't part of the HOA, and my property deed clearly showed it. But Karen didn't seem to care about facts. She had her own rules. Her eyes darted around and she muttered something about selective enforcement, then turned on her heel, still recording, and stormed off. Her footsteps echoed down the street, leaving me in stunned silence. I closed the door, heart still pounding, realizing this was only the beginning. That morning I glanced out my window and spotted a strange piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. My stomach sank. It was a citation, home-printed with a fake seal and a ridiculous backdoll 1554 aesthetic. I immediately knew who had made it. Karen. She was playing her game again, but what struck me most was her own parking. Her shiny, white Lexus was parked in the red-striped fire lane at the end of the cul-de-sac, clearly marked, "No parking, fire lane, tow-away zone." She did this almost daily, acting like she owned the street. Her reasoning? Everyone knows it's just for show. Nothing ever happens here anyway. The irony was as thick as her arrogance. I took photos from different angles, noted the weather conditions, and saved them in a folder. I wasn't planning to do anything yet. I'm not confrontational by nature. But I knew I needed to be prepared. Karen thrived on confrontation. I preferred to keep my cards close. Later that day, I saw her crouched behind a tree across the street, snapping pictures of my house and muttering to herself. I decided to talk to some neighbors. Turns out Karen wasn't just targeting me. She'd tried to report my dog barking, started a petition to ban holiday decorations before December 15th, and yelled at the mailman for stepping on her lawn. She aimed to control the entire street, not just me. Over the next few days, her car kept appearing in the fire lane like clockwork. I started collecting evidence, photos, videos, timestamps. Her antics were escalating. Then, she knocked on my door again, holding a laminated fake HOA sign that threatened a fine if I didn't paint my garage door beige within a week. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You park in a fire lane every day, want to talk about rules?" She froze. Her mouth twitched, like she was about to shout, but then she turned and walked away, realizing I had the upper hand. It wasn't anger that made me hold back. It was strategy. I let her think she was in control for a few days longer. Meanwhile, I documented everything. Her parking, her fake citations, her passive-aggressive notes. I even recorded her in action, walking away from her car with grocery bags in case I needed it later. One evening during her gatherings, I saw her car again in the fire zone. I made the call to the city's code enforcement hotline, anonymously, at first. I asked about the procedures for repeat violations. The woman on the line was helpful. She explained I could submit evidence online, and if the violation was active, they'd tow her vehicle. I asked one more thing. Was impersonating HOA authority illegal? She confirmed it was. That night, I uploaded everything. Photos, videos, fake citations, maps, marked the location. I waited on my porch with a cold drink, watching as the tow truck arrived just as I predicted. Karen's car was hooked up and towed away, her face a mask of shock and fury. Her house was quiet the next morning, her Lexus gone. No more fake citations, no more threats, but I knew she wasn't finished. and I was ready for whatever she threw at me next. Her scream echoed down the street, but it was drowned out by the roar of the tow truck engine. Karen's face twisted in disbelief, her eyes wide with shock and fury as she watched her precious Lexus being hoisted onto the flatbed. She ran forward, fists pounding on the truck's side, trying to stop it, yelling at the driver to get out of her way. "This is illegal! You're trespassing! I'll sue! I'll sue everyone involved!" Her voice cracked, but she kept shouting, voice rising with each word, desperate to cling to some semblance of control. The driver, unmoved, shook his head slowly. Calm but firm, he pointed to the bright city sign that clearly marked the fire lane. "Ma'am, you've been warned multiple times. This is a legal action. We're authorized by city law. If you have a problem, you need to take it up with the city. Right now, this vehicle is getting towed." Karen's hands flew to her phone, trying to record the scene, probably to post it online or use as proof. But the truck driver didn't hesitate. With practiced efficiency, he attached the tow chains, secured her car, and began to lift it. Karen's eyes darted from her vehicle to the crowd that had gathered, neighbors who'd come out to see what was happening. Some looked on quietly, others whispered, and a few shook their heads in silent judgment. Her face turned a shade redder, more from embarrassment than anger, as she watched her Lexus being driven away, her entire world crumbling in an instant. Her fists clenched tighter, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, but no sound came. Just the furious, helpless silence of someone who'd finally been caught in her own web of lies and threats. I sat on my porch, feeling a strange mixture of relief and satisfaction. Not because I enjoyed her suffering, well, maybe a little, but because I knew the game had shifted. She had pushed and pushed, attacking my property, forging fake citations, shouting in the street, and trying to intimidate everyone. But now, her own arrogance had sealed her fate. Her power, her control, gone. The fake citations, the threats, the passive-aggressive notes, they dissolved into the background as the cold reality of justice caught up. And I hadn't even had to lift a finger. All I did was document her actions, wait patiently, and let her own hubris do the work. Her rage was palpable, but it was hollow now. Her threats, her bluster, they were nothing but noise, fading into silence as her car disappeared down the street. That moment marked the turning point. Karen's reign of intimidation was over. Just like that, she was defeated not through confrontation, but through patience, evidence, and the simple power of truth. And I realized with a quiet smile that sometimes the best way to win is to let your opponent do the work for you. The tow truck rumbled away, leaving Karen standing there trembling, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. Her hands clenched into fists, trembling so badly that she nearly dropped her phone. She watched her precious Lexus disappear down the street, the sound of the engine fading into the distance. Silence fell over the street, broken only by her ragged breathing and the whispers of neighbors still gathered around. No one dared say a word. They had seen everything. But what they didn't see was that Karen wasn't finished. Not yet. Suddenly, her eyes flicked to her phone. She fumbled to unlock it with trembling fingers, her mind racing. She dialed a number, her voice shaking but determined. "Yes, I need to speak to your supervisor. It's an emergency." She paused, then sneered. "Yes, I'm the owner of the Lexus. They just towed it without proper notice. I want legal action. Immediately." A moment of silence. Then the voice on the other end responded, calm and professional. "Ma'am, I understand your frustration, but the city's rules are clear. Fire lanes are enforced daily. If you have complaints, you can file a formal appeal." Karen's face twisted with fury. "I don't care about your rules. I'll make sure everyone hears about this. Trust me." But what she didn't realize was that I had been recording the entire scene from my porch, hidden behind my curtains. Every word, every movement. I had seen her reach for her phone earlier, probably to call someone to threaten or intimidate. But I had already sent the footage to the city's legal department, along with all the evidence I'd gathered over the past few weeks, her parking violations, her fake citations, her aggressive confrontations. As she paced, furious, her phone buzzed. She looked at it, her eyes narrowing. A message from an unknown number blinked on the screen. "Your game is over, Karen. You've pushed too far. Now it's my turn." Her breath hitched. She stared at the message, then slowly looked up, eyes darting around nervously. That's when I saw it, a small flash of something metallic in her hand, a keychain, a tiny, shiny object. Before I could react, she whipped her hand out and threw it at the street corner. It clattered loudly. I squinted to see what it was, something I hadn't noticed before. The object glinted in the sunlight, a small, hidden camera mounted on a keychain, connected to a tiny device. She had been recording everything all along. All my evidence, all the witnesses, all her threats. She'd been planning her revenge. But I had one last card to play. I pulled out my phone, unlocked a special app I'd installed days ago. I pressed the button. The moment Karen saw my screen, her face drained of color. I had activated a remote feed, live streaming everything she was doing, every sneer, every threat, every movement. Her eyes widened in horror. "What are you doing?" she spat, voice trembling. "Oh, just making sure the world knows what you're really up to," I said softly. "You've been caught red-handed, Karen. Fake citations, illegal parking, threats, everything documented. And now the whole city is watching." She lunged forward, trying to grab my phone, but I was quicker. I backed away, holding the device out of her reach. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You'll regret this." But her voice was hollow. Her bravado was gone. For the first time, she looked truly defeated. Her own lies, her manipulations, her attempts at control all turned against her. Suddenly, sirens blared in the distance. A police car screeched to a stop nearby. Officers jumped out, guns drawn, and approached her cautiously. "Karen," one officer said sternly, "we've received multiple reports about illegal parking, harassment, and threats. We're here to investigate." Her face contorted in panic. She looked at me, then at the officers. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. She knew she was caught, completely exposed. The officers approached, took her into custody, and read her rights. As they led her away, she kept trying to protest, but her voice faltered. Her entire empire of lies crumbled in an instant. And then, silence. Lowered my phone and looked around. My neighbors stared in awe, some clapping softly, others just shaking their heads. I felt a strange mixture of relief and disbelief. It was over. But what truly stunned me was what I saw next. As Karen was taken into the police cruiser, she looked back at me one last time, her eyes burning with fury and defeat. And she whispered so quietly that only I could hear, "You think this is the end? You just wait." A shiver ran down my spine, because I knew that in her twisted mind she had one more trick hidden up her sleeve. And I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming next. But I was certain of one thing. I had won this round, and the truth had finally shattered her illusion of power. The game was over, or so I thought, because the real storm was only just beginning.